Hi, hello, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Hello, can you hear me now? Hi, am I audible? Can you confirm that? Hello, 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 hello. Okay, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
I think my audio is fine. Mm, I checked with some other device. There I can. Yes, there I can hear it. I think so. Something is wrong from your end. Hello. Okay, it is clear. Okay. So, so I guess you are first time attending this tutorials, right? Uh, this is your first time attending this tutorials. Okay, okay.
Am I audible now, sir?
Yes, yes, yes. Now your audio is fine. Uh, so, you haven't joined the previous lectures, right?
No, sir, it's my first time.
It's your first time. So, can you introduce yourself, like what you study, what you do, or what's your background? So,
Sir, I am an ICT engineer.
okay,
I have completed in ICT, Information Communication Technology,
okay,
and I am a bit more interested towards research sides. So that's why I'm
okay,
trying to learn more about how can we model the whole cell in the computer, like such thing.
I see, I see. So, you know coding and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, so fine. So, today, so this whole lecture, have you gone through the actual lectures by Professor Athale?
yeah, I am on the fourth week. I have completed the fourth week.
Okay, you have completed fourth. So, how do you find it?
I find it interesting, but if it would be good if it has some certain details, like they are very short, like not proper details.
Okay. So okay, so I think those lectures they help you like have an overall idea about the topics. He doesn't go into
Yeah,
very details about some stuff, some overall ideas. So what we do in this tutorial sessions is I try to go through some of this his lectures. I don't usually what I do is I discuss the assignments given, give hints how to solve it, and those kind of stuff, or any kind of if the students have any questions, I try to discuss this with them. So today I won't discuss any assignments, though I will discuss one topic he has been covered in week 5 of this of his lectures, that is diffusion. Today's our discussion will be mostly based on diffusion. So my name is Sahil, and I will ask, like, request you to drop an email in this email. You can take a screenshot or something. So I
yeah,
sometimes communicate via these emails. There are two, three other students also who haven't joined yet, or maybe they wouldn't join. I don't know. So please drop me an email here. I will write it to you again if you have any doubts or anything, like any questions or any assignment problems. You can drop me an email and I can discuss it in the next week. Okay.
okay,
So if you like, I encourage you to go through the lectures. It will give you some perspective about how to get started with this kind of problems of that involves in cellular biophysics. How, like, you will get information about cells, what is inside, what is the physics, how the physics part is involved in cells, and those kind of stuff. Okay. So I don't know how it will overall help you to achieve whatever you are trying to achieve, but I think it will give you some idea about uh,
yes, sir.
mm,
I
and
found it helpful.
yeah, that's great. So I am doing my PhD in IIT Hyderabad. uh, I am from the physics department, and I work in the simulation of cellular systems, and I model cell and study its mechanics and how some biological stuff grows and takes its forms and all those kind of stuff. So, so that's my introduction. So I guess you said you are an engineer, right?
Yeah.
So so how much physics do you remember still?
So I remember much a bit till the 12th standard, and then I had some interest, so I had digging with in some concepts of quantum physics and in some concepts of particle physics.
Hmm.
Uh, that's and also in some thermodynamic concepts. That's all.
Okay, that's great. That's fine. But we will do like usually these sessions are more discussive. Like I am not going to answer or take a class here. I will try to have a discussion and get some answers from yourself, you and me also. So week 5, in week 5 he has discussed diffusion. Do you know what diffusion is?
Yeah. So diffusion is some process where, due to the pressure change, when there are two mediums and there is some kind of a wall or a thing between them, and there is pressure change between those two mediums. Uh, like one medium is going to, if we see there are two components, let's assume a salt and a solution. Then between them, if there is a change in the pressure, if solution 1 is having less concentration than solution 2, so the salt or the solvent from the solution 1 will come into the solution 2. So that is known as the diffusion.
So okay. So then what is osmosis? Do you know?
Yeah, this is the same concept.
So are diffusion and osmosis same?
No.
Then no, don't feel like I'm
Yeah.
testing you. I'm just I'm not testing you. I'm just asking to know about your the information you have. So you are not fully right or fully wrong. So this concentration change you are mentioning, that part was correct, but this membrane you don't need for diffusion. For osmosis
Okay.
you do. So for the key difference between osmosis and diffusion is osmosis is a directed motion. By directed motion I mean like there is a proper direction of the process happening, like from a higher concentration to lower concentration, or let's say from particles with different sizes move to a particular direction only. It's not any direction. So osmosis also he discussed in week 5. So you'll have an idea about what both diffusion and osmosis he has discussed in week 5. So you tell me, let's say in a room you spray some perfume, or in a glass of water you put some ink. So what happens if you wait enough?
Yeah, the particles of the ink will start to get to all the places in the glass, and same for the perfume. The gas will start to move in every direction in the room.
Yes, it will start moving, and after
Yeah,
some
so it
time,
will try to make itself its concentration uniform over all of the medium. Like in glass, we can say if we have water as a medium, so it will try to get its concentration uniform in all the medium, like in all the glass where it will be a water. And same for the room, the place where is the large concentration of the gases, the perfume will try to uniformize itself.
it's called homogenizing. Term is
Yeah.
homogenize. You are saying. So this process, and let's say you have a what you call resin, right? That's called, what's the term for it? and you put it on water. Do you know there is in this thing what you call it? I think it's called kismis in Hindi, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So if you put it in water overnight, do you know what happens in the morning?
yeah, the water gets inside it.
Yes, the water gets inside it, and it becomes like a it swallows up, right? So
Yeah.
the what's the difference between these two process I have just described? What is this happening here, and what is this happening?
So the thing is that the ink and the water part, the ink was getting concentrated. So the ink was getting uniformly separated over the whole water, and the same for the perfume. But when we come about the resin part, the material inside the resin is getting certain amount of water. So resin is having a wall.
Yes,
Because of that,
yes.
the material inside it cannot get uniformly concentratedly, cannot get separate from its own body. So it's remaining there, but water can come inside it.
So this process is diffusion,
Okay, and
and
this
this
is
this is
osmosis.
osmosis. Osmosis happens in a particular direction. Direction being from water to inside the resin. But here, and it needs a membrane separation. There is this, it has to be separated in by via some membrane, so that some particular so these membranes usually have holes. Okay, so from these holes certain sized molecules can enter or come out, but some others cannot. So that leads to this kind of behavior, which is called osmosis. And diffusion does not need anything, it's just purely driven by molecules own energy, own kinetic energy. So that we'll discuss, will come in a bit. And do you know what reverse osmosis is?
So the reverse osmosis when we apply the pressure and try to get the concentration from less concentrated solvent to the more concentrated
Yes,
side,
yes. So
like
if
opposite of the osmosis.
opposite of the osmosis, so you need to apply some kind of force externally,
Yeah,
involve some kind of force. So have you heard this reverse osmosis term?
yeah, we use for water purification
Yes,
everywhere.
yes, that is a RO. So all these details and more a little bit more detailed discussion is in the lectures about osmosis, and about also about diffusion. So I'll discuss diffusion today. So what does happen? What do you think happens? Like how does it, if I ask you, how does particles from here go reach a point here after some time? So what is the process
So
involved?
according to my understanding, when we are talking about the air, so we have air as a molecule, or as we see air as a molecular structure.
Hmm.
So we can say that it's been uniform in all the directions. Like we have oxygen, nitrogen, and other concentrants.
Hmm.
So the perfume is made up of certain gases. So these gases will try to interact with the medium, and because of that interaction, they would try to get themselves diffused over whole the medium because of their energy. We can see the kinetic energy they have with them, because when we release the perfume they have certain energy, or we can say in the case of ink, when we drop a droplet of ink, because of the surface tension of the water molecules, the ink is having certain different kind of molecular structure than the structure of the water. So the molecules of the ink would try to do some interaction with the water molecules. This can cause the intermolecular bonds of water, which was having previously before we drop the ink. But after we drop the ink, as it is in hydrophilic state, I can think ink is hydrophilic rather than hydrophobic, so it would try to attract more and more molecules of the water towards its side. So because of that interaction, it's getting mixed in the whole solution.
Okay, okay, hold on. Uh, you have told a lot of terms. So let's take it slow. So first, one thing you have mentioned, surface tension. So
Yeah.
please remember, surface tension is a phenomena of the surface. So let's say you have water here. So surface tension only work if you have something here because of the surface. In the bulk, surface tension force does not have any. It is not present in the bulk. So
Okay.
surface tension is not involved. So in both the cases, it in let's say here in water ink system, or let's say in the air you put some perfume. In both the cases, surface tension does not work. And also the hydrophilic hydrophobic thing, it's not that complicated. It's more simpler process. You'll understand, like you'll know. So one thing you have mentioned, it interacts and there is energy. So what kind of interaction is there? So let's think of very simple process. So there are water, let's say these are the water molecules. Okay, we are talking about molecular level. And let's say this is the ink you have sprayed, molecules of the ink. Now this, let's say for now, water molecules are fixed in the space. Now this molecule have some kind of energy, right?
Yeah.
And where does this energy comes from? This energy comes from temperature. So if they are not at absolute zero temperature, if they have some finite temperature, let's say it's room temperature, they will have some kind of thermal energy. Makes sense?
Yeah.
If they are at finite temperature, they have some kind of thermal energy. So this energy will get give them kinetic energy. What do you mean by kinetic energy and thermal energy? So thermal energy comes
Oh,
from the heat, and kinetic energy makes them move, right? In
yeah.
simpler terms. So if they are moving, what is the value of their energy? Do you remember? This
Half
is,
hours.
yes, this is the kinetic energy. Now, what does this imply? So they have a certain v. V is velocity, right?
Yeah.
So if they have velocity, that means they are moving, right? With some velocity. So these guys are moving. Fine till now?
Yeah. Okay.
Moving
So,
with the
velocity.
constant v, right?
Velocity.
Now, do you remember Newton's law?
Oh,
I think first law.
any object in motion will remain in motion unless it's stopped.
Yes, exactly. So let's say this particular particle has some velocity v, and in this direction, right? So by Newton's first law, it should move like this
Yeah.
forever. But let's say, so if everyone has a direction like this, so everyone will, the whole bunch of cluster particles will move in this direction, right? But from Newton's law, but there is a problem.
Mm,
What happens is
yeah.
there are water molecules in between, or also this ink's own molecule. So what they do is they they collide. So let's say it was going like this and it collides with a water molecule, or this person was trying to go in this direction, it collides with its own molecule. So what happens if they collide? They change its direction, right?
Yeah.
So it changes its direction and again tries to move in a straight line, hits another particle, tries to move another straight line, hits, hits. It's like do this kind of motion. Okay. every molecule is doing a motion like this.
Brownian motion like anything.
Exactly, Brownian motion. This is the motion called, this is called the Brownian motion. Brownian
Motion.
motion. And another term is called is random walk. We'll come to why it is called random walk. You know why it is called random walk, but there is another significance to it. So this, if all of the particles are doing random walk or Brownian motion, and this Brownian motion leads to homogenizing the system. It leads to this system being here to everywhere homogenized. Okay,
Yeah.
this procedure is clear. That is how it is happening. Okay, so what we know till now, like they have certain kind of velocity, and this is happens via Brownian motion. And okay, so how do you quantify this Brownian motion? There is a
So if you want to quantify, then we can make certain assumptions. We can take the number of particles or the system as a whole and consider it to make certain equations out of it, like
Mhm. So yes, one famous equation I told you was given by Einstein. So do you know what
uh,
KBT is?
yeah,
Boltzmann
yeah,
constant.
Boltzmann constant.
So any system is at finite temperature T, you can write this energy by half KBT in one dimensional. If you remember, I don't think you remember thermal. It's like 11th, 12th thermodynamics and stuff. Like it's actually
Yeah,
n by 2 kBT in ND, right? This is equipartition. Do you partition theorem? This anything like rings a bell? Equipartition theorem, n by 2 kBT, this kind of thing. Now let's say
yeah, it's done.
yeah, you remember, right? So in three dimension it is 3 by 2 kBT. Now this is the energy they had, we talked about. So if you can equate it to the kinetic energy of all the molecules. Now what V is there? This V is not a the same V we talked about. This V is called root mean square.
Velocity.
No, this is root mean square velocity. Do you know what root mean square velocity is? Root
Yeah,
mean
root of.
square.
Okay.
So why do we take this? We take this because velocity has a direction.
And we need to have it cannot be in the same direction for all the times because of the Brahman motion. So we take the average of
Yes.
the velocity
Yes, we take the average of this velocity and we take the
and then
square to not have any directional bias, plus minus thing, right?
yeah,
That's what we learned. So from there you can calculate vrms is root 3 kt by m. Okay, so this is the root mean square velocity. So this is the average velocity any particle is moving, like in that velocity. So a particular particle you take, it may be moving in a faster than rms, or there are some other particle will be moving slower than this rms. So this is the velocity on an average any particle is uh, moving with. Okay, so this is rms velocity. So from here you can calculate, there is one assignment. Yes, so assignment, there is a question in the lectures they are discussed. So
uh,
calculate the velocity of lysozyme. So lysozyme is a protein which, like experimental observation is, they do a random walk. Okay, they do Brownian motion. So you know its temperature 300 K. provided mass of lysosome is 14,300 Dalton. This is the mass. So you have to convert this to kg. Okay. So there is a conversion factor you should look up. So 1 Dalton equals how much kilogram. So once you know this mass, now VRMS what we got? Root 3 kT by m. Now you can put it and have this value VRMS, and you will have an idea how fast a certain enzyme or protein is moving in a particular in our biological system, and you can compare it to your known speeds like your
Yeah.
bike or your car, those kind of
But
things.
I am questioning,
Yes.
why we are not considering the medium? Like, if we consider the medium to be having certain ions, so because of that, the structure of the enzyme can be, the velocity can be affected due to
Yes,
the
yes.
effects which is getting through the charges due to surrounding interactions and all those things.
Yeah, it's
So
a
we need to consider that kind of forces also.
yes, you can consider that. So this is an rather simplistic example. Like if
Okay.
there was nothing, it's like a more uh, assumption based example. You can do that. That complicates things. So this question is to get you an idea of how to use this kind of equations and have a overall idea about how fast this can move. It can slow down by whatever you are saying, that ions and ionization and stuff. That may slow down or that may speeden up, but that wouldn't change it very significantly. So bottom line is, this is an idealistic example, nothing else. Okay. Fine, or you have doubts still?
Yeah, it's fine.
So most of the time in physics we just deal with very easy and simplistic models.
Yes, I've also did same, like considering the most simple things as assumptions.
Yes, yes, exactly. So assumption, and first we start with those assumptions, then later on we build up on those, on top of those. Let's say whatever you're saying, first thing you want to do is to calculate RMS velocity via these assumptions. Now you add some more complications to it. That will lead to some new sets of equation. You solve them again. After that you add some more complications, so one step by step you go ahead. That's how uh, a real problem is dealt with. You can't just directly attack the whole problem. That can be complicated, and you wouldn't have intuition, enough intuition to handle the problem. To build up intuition, you need to do this actually.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about this random walk. So we have discussed there is this kind of random walk is going on, right? So how to quantify more this random walk in a better way? So let's talk about 1D random walk. So here it was 2D, but in these systems these are 3D systems. Okay. So again for simplicity we talk about 1D random walk. Let's say you have a line. This is the origin, and there is a random walker, or this famous example, drunk random walker, who takes any steps in any direction. There is no bias, like it has no bias to go in this direction or this direction. It has equal probability of going in any direction, and in every step it crosses a delta amount of uh, length. It covers a delta amount of length. Okay. Now you have to find out, sorry, you have to find out after time t, will it reach anywhere or not?
That,
Yes.
if we consider the probability of going in both directions to be equal, having no biases, then after time t, it must be on its own position. Like we will not reach anywhere.
Okay, that's correct. And so we will try to find the same thing out mathematically. So let's say what is, let's say he has taken n steps. So what will be xn? Like
Xn would be
xn can be
plus delta n or minus delta n.
plus delta n, sorry, plus n delta or minus n delta. It can be anything. So
Yeah.
so in one step it goes delta. So let's say at first go it goes from here, then goes here, then it comes back. It is doing something like this, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So how to write its, so can I write this thing xn? Let's write not xn. So xn is wherever it was at a step before plus minus delta. Is this correct? Is this line correct?
Uh, well, yes, we can say.
Like let's say x2 is x1 plus minus delta. So at first step, let's say it was here x1. So in the next step, if it takes, it can go either here or here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we ask you on an average, like how, what is this distance on an average? So what is the definition of average? 1 to, let's say n, no, not that n. Mm, okay, n, this side. So what is this capital N and small n? Small n is number of steps and n is number of trials. So what does it mean? Number of trials or number of random workers. So let's think of it this way. Like you have one random worker, it takes n steps. Okay, it goes somewhere, right? Let's say it took 3 steps to the right and 1 step to the left. Then where does it end up? 2 steps to the right. Is it correct?
So it took one step in the.
Let's 3 steps towards right direction, 1 step towards left direction.
Yeah, so total two steps in the right direction.
Yes. So it is not doing anything, any bias. I'm saying again, it is just doing random work, like it's doing work randomly. For example, let's say you are doing a coin toss. So probability of getting head and tail is half half, right?
Yeah.
But let's say you do a toss 5 times. Is there a chance that you get all 5 heads?
Yeah, there is a chance.
Yes. Or let's say 3 heads, 2 tails. That's also
Yeah.
there. So will you say there is a bias to this? Then
No,
why not? How do you know that
because it
half half?
is random, so it can happen.
No, how do you conclude? Like let's say I have given you a coin, and you have
Yeah.
to conclude it's a biased coin or not. How do you conclude that?
By tossing it. So
How
it's
many
a
times?
bias, then I all the time will get 5 heads. Every time, in all number of trials.
Okay, let's say it's bias like around 70-30. Like 70% of the time it will give heads, 30% of the time it will give tails. So how do you verify this experimentally?
by taking more number of trials and see if the number of access are getting more and more every time we do the experiment.
Exactly, exactly. So you have to do a huge number of trials, right? And eventually you need, like, let's say you took 1 million coin toss, and half of them you got heads, half of them you got tails. Then eventually you can say that okay, it is reaching someone, right? So this kind of averaging is called ensemble average. So what do you mean by ensemble? Ensemble means by taking multiple number of trials
Yeah.
with different initial condition. You do the experiment over and over again. Okay. So did you know the term ensemble? I think so.
No.
Okay. Anyway, so here also for this random walker, we'll do either we'll think of that the same worker is walking multiple times, like it did a end step starting from zero, it did end step. Somehow you keep that person back to zero, you let it do end steps again, then again you take it back to zero, and it does end step again, and it ends up here. The next time it ends up here, next time it ends up here, next time it ends up here. This is happening. Or you can think about it, you have capital N numbers of different random walkers who is doing the end steps again, small end steps. So both of them lead to this ensemble average. So whenever there is this kind of average sign in this context, you know there is ensemble average going on. So you understand what ensemble averaging is?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you take this, now you will see what it leads to. So 1 by n sum over I equal 1 to n. So xi n. So it will be delta plus delta plus delta dot minus delta minus delta minus delta. So something like this, and eventually it will become 0 on an average, right? Because it has equal probability.
Yeah, it's having no bias, so it will be
Yes,
zero.
yes, it will be 0. So on an average, it does not have any displacement, right?
Yeah.
But if I ask you, so this we have calculated what is the average of x square here. Same kind of ensemble average. What is the average of xi square? We know xin average is 0. What is it? So how do you calculate this? So remember we have discussed xin. I is the random walker, ith. So it
Yeah.
had this n minus 1 plus minus delta. You remember this thing, right?
Uh, I don't think it would be zero.
You
It will
think?
be certain constant.
Okay, you don't think it will be 0. Why do you think it will not be 0?
Because when we do the calculations, we could find certain more terms in the equation.
Exactly. So let's do a squaring. So xi square n minus 1 plus delta square plus minus 2 delta xi n minus 1. In this line you take an average like this. Right? This is just a number, this is just a number, so this will be the average. Right?
Yeah.
Now what does it give you? Xi square n equals xi square n minus 1 plus delta square. Right? Now
Yes.
look at this. This again you can convert it, like you can write it xi square n minus 2 average plus delta square plus this delta square again. From the same line, like it is 2 for n, then it is 2 for n minus 1 also.
Yeah.
So you can keep doing this unless you reach to xi 1 square plus
plus n square xi.
n minus 1 times delta square. So there are n minus 1 delta square happening. And what is this? This is also delta square. At the first step, it has gone like xi1. This is the first step. It has gone either plus delta or minus delta. So the moment you take square, this goes out.
So it would cancel it out. It's having equal probability.
So what is the xi n square? Then n delta square,
Yeah.
right? So you get a finite value of x square average. So you don't have a value for x average, but you have a finite value of x square average. So what does it tell you? It tells you that even though on an average a particular particle here is not displacing at all, their square average has a displacement. And that's how these things, like it's a mathematical argument that that's how
And
particles from a concentration reaches to far end of the room.
yes.
Okay,
So this diffusion is happening.
that's how the diffusion is happening. Now let's talk about time. Now let's say at it takes t time to do n steps. Okay, and for each steps it takes tau amount of time. Now can you write it in terms of t? N by t, I guess. So t is n by tau.
Yeah.
Oh sorry, I should write it n. N equals t times tau.
Into down.
Yes. So xi square n is t times tau delta square. So I define a new parameter which is 2. Let's say, okay, so this will, I'm trying to write it like this for a particular reason. So this will give you 2 delta 2d equals delta square, right? So this is a constant. So I have defined d to be tau delta square by 2. Tau is the time taken at each step and delta is the length it has gone at each step. So this d is called diffusion constant, diffusion coefficient. Sorry. Okay. So from this formula you can say after time t how far a overall concentration will go, and on average how far it will go, right? Like if you have a concentration here, you wait for t time, you know on an average of particles how far you will find this particle from its original position.
So we can calculate the diffusion coefficient. With the help of diffusion coefficient, we can calculate the time.
Yes, you can calculate either you need to know diffusion coefficient or you need to know how far it has gone. From there you can calculate the diffusion coefficient. Remember this diffusion coefficient, it becomes a system's property. So this, see, delta and tau both have their property, how strongly a particle can jump, or how fast a particle can jump. So this depends on the nature of the particle. So the d becomes dependent on the system. Like if you have ink and water system, there will be a certain D. If you have perfume air system, it will have certain D. If you have protein in a cell, you will have certain amount of D.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is diffusion coefficient. So there is another question. It asks like a spherical droplet of dye with a radius this is placed in a large tank of water. The dye diffuses into water at a rate 1.5 in 10⁻⁶. Diffusion rate is given. How long it will take for the dye to diffuse with distance 1 centimeter from the center of the droplet. Now you can calculate it, right, from here. So D is given, T is also given. We are asking how far it will go from the in a no how long it will take to.
Yeah, so we need to find the t if we are given the distance.
Yes, correct. Okay, so till this point you understand this, right? Now
Yeah.
today my plan was to show some uh, some visual aid, to give you some visual aid via some simple coding that to solve this. Okay. Okay, one more thing I will tell you. This x square. So what did we find? X square average equals 2 dt, right? So this happened in 1D. So in 2D it becomes 4 dt, right? Like if you
Uh,
consider x square plus y square, then it becomes r square, which r square is x square plus y square, right? So r square average have x square plus y square average. So each of them has 2 dt. So in two dimensional it becomes 4 dt. Okay. So we'll
yeah. Yeah.
try to have try to simulate this kind of behavior. Have some simple coding. I think you know coding well, right? So I think you can understand pretty easily whatever I want to say. But for the before that we need to write the equation of motion of the system. Do you know what equation of motion is?
Yeah, if we need to consider any object is in motion, then we define its equation of motion by setting some values like its
Okay.
velocity, its position from reference point, and all those things.
Hmm. So what we'll do is it write its velocity to be some random.
Okay.
Why random? Because remember,
Because it's
yeah. So there was this random walk it was doing. So its velocity in any direction is random. So can we write this dx dt equals some random rx and dy dt is some random ry, right?
yeah.
And how do you solve this numerically? Do you know any method solve this?
By taking the integration.
Okay. So by taking the integration, how are you going to take the integration?
So dx is equal to integration of rx into dt and dy is equal to ry into dt.
No, 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 no. This Rx is a random number.
Okay.
So uh, it depends on time actually. Like at this time, this Rx has a particular value. At a later time, like at t1 has a value. At t2 it has a different value. But it changes with time. So this integration, can you perform this integration actually?
Mm,
It's
yeah.
it's not like Rx times t.
Okay.
Let's say instead of Rx you had some function of t dt. Will you be able to perform this integration?
So then we can.
Then you can, right? So this Rx is also a function of t.
function of t. So we are making a function of t.
Yes, because this random force, it does not, it is not the same, or it is not a constant, or it is not like any function like sinusoidal sine t, like this ft. If you have this ft to be, let's say, sine t, then you can perform this integration. But you don't know this form of Rx, you just know it is a random number. It is just a random number, but
So we cannot.
yes, it changes with time though.
Yeah.
So you cannot directly perform this integration. So there you need to take help of computers. Like by hand you cannot do it. So do you know how to solve differential equations? You know this is a differential equation, right?
Yeah.
Differential equation. So dx dt equals, let's say, rx dy dt ry. Do you know how to solve a set of differential equation?
So we would try to get a proper set of we can say a ideal equation, and then would try to fit it
What equation?
like a 1D differential equation,
Hmm.
and we would try to fit it this thing in that equation.
1D differential equation, like traditional techniques, like the way. So do you know numerical solution to differential equation,
I
or
I think I need.
Euler method?
I have studied, but I need to brush up that part.
Yeah, yeah. Just tell me you have heard of this or not.
Yeah, heard it.
Range Kutta method, RK, this kind of numerical methods in your college maybe. You might have
Yeah,
had a course on it.
I had a course on differential equations, and I have heard about the Euler method.
Yes, yes. So it is the same thing. So whenever you can't solve it directly by this kind of integration, you solve it numerically via some kind of code. So I'll
Yeah.
just quickly give you this RK method is a bit more complicated and a bigger method, but more accurate. But Euler is less accurate, but it gives quite good results. So dx dt equals some, let's say, some ft you have. Okay. So you can write xt plus delta t minus xt by delta t. Do you know this definition of differentiation? This part. This left hand side I have written like this.
Yeah.
It's 11th or something. They teach you this definition of uh, differentiation.
Yeah, where the limits tends to reach to zero.
Yes, yes, exactly. So let's say we, for now we don't care about this limit delta t tends to 0. But you can write it x t plus delta t equals x of t plus delta t times f of t. From here, like this equals this and plus this, right?
Yeah.
Now let's say you know x at t equals 0, which is x0. Now you can know x at delta t, right, equals some delta t times f of t equal to 0. Now if you know this, like if you do it iteratively, you can know at any time what is x. Am I making sense or not?
Yeah, we are just taking certain more number of steps, and
Yes.
then we every time add or subtract the delta t quotient, which is fixed. And
Yes.
so, being that we can make certain kind of pattern. to understand where the x is going, in which direction, means either plus or negative, means either positive or negative. So we can have a tentative sense of x
Yes.
from taking the number of steps to understand.
So this ft tells you the change of x with respect to t.
Yeah.
So this delta times ft is the change in x at a very small amount of time delta t. This whole thing. So that is exactly what is written here.
Okay. So based on that, we can assume that the random motion can be patternized. So we can actually have a sense that which direction or which time direction that random motion is actually being going.
Yeah, be it random motion, be it any kind of motion, this is more
Yeah.
general. It doesn't not depend on random motion or any motion. It just tells you if you have a dx dt equals ft times system, like where you know that change of x as a function of t, then you can say that you can calculate ultimately if you integrate, let's say dx dt equals f of t. So if you integrate dx f of t dt integral, right? So what does it give you? X of t is integral f of t dt, right? From a to b, right? That in general before the integration this is the form, right?
Yeah.
So what does it tell you? After integrating a differential equation you get x as at any time t, you put it any t, you will get an answer. So x as a function of t you will get, right? So you know the whole trajectory of the particle. Like this, let's say x represents a particle's position and it has some kind of function that dictates its velocity.
So we can have a proper so think like kind of intuition like which direction the particle is going on currently. If we can have certain time frames of results.
Hmm. Yes, you are correct. So that is, this is the general technique. Now to numerically solve it, you solve, do not solve the whole thing altogether. You break down the whole time series into small delta t's, and you say that if a particle was at a particular position, where this particle is going to be after a time delta t.
Yeah, so we are actually using certain kind of patterns to track the particle.
Certain kind of.
Like for we are using taking different measurements and try to find a pattern. If we get a pattern, that we can estimate that what would be the next destination of the particle.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So if you know what drives the particle, this f of t, this drives the particle, you can tell what, where the particle is going to be in the next time step.
Yeah.
Okay. So this method is called Euler method. Okay. There is a modification of this method where to solve random walk like problem, it's called Weiner method, which is the same method, but instead of t we multiply it with root t. F of t. That is the difference. Why root t? Because like you can see d and t, this r square, so r is not proportional to t, r is proportional to root t, right? From r square
Yeah.
average 4 dt, r does not depend on t, r square depends on t. So r is proportional to root t. That is why, not exactly that is why, that's how you can have an uh, argumentative hand wavy intuition why there is root. They are not going into very details of why they take root t here, but this is the overall method of solution to get the particle position if you know this ft. Fine. Do you understand or any doubts?
Yeah, understood.
Okay. Now instead of this ft we have this randomness rx or xi, whatever, rx ry. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Now we will uh, uh, shift to the computer, like shift to the laptop. Hold on.
Yeah. Okay. No problem.
And try to solve it and try to visualize it. Okay. So you can see my screen.
Yeah.
So what coding language do you use?
I use Python mostly.
Okay. So for now, I'll show it in MATLAB. Do you know MATLAB?
I have a certain idea what it is, but I have not practiced it. We use Scilab mostly.
Scilab, yeah. So see, MATLAB and Python has exactly one-to-one mapping. Okay, like
Yeah.
anything you can do in Python, you can do it in MATLAB, and vice versa. But difference is MATLAB is a paid software and Python is not, which is a good thing for Python. So I'll show you. If you are interested, you can write it in Python also. It's completely same. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say, so I have already written the code. So I'll go through, you will understand easily. So this suggests number of particles, how many particles you want to have. Let's say I put 1 here, and number of steps, like how many time steps you want to look at each time. Say this is a delta t. Okay, like what is that? So delta t you have to define, and for now we are using a diffusion coefficient to be uh,
One for simplicity.
yeah, diffusion coefficient to be 1 for simplicity, exactly. So now x and y at the particle position will store. Okay,
Yeah.
and this is the main part where the solution is happening. You see, we are using a for loop to have like this small increment. Will do it in a loop, so we will know that after a long time t, what is the particle position. Okay,
Yeah.
and this square root of dt, I told you, like square root of time step, and we are multiplying it 2 dt.
To the diffusion constant, and
Diffusion
there we
coefficient,
are using the random function.
yes, and then they were using random number, the thing we have discussed, correct?
Yeah.
So if we run it, so it solves it. Now let's plot it. Okay, so it uses, I have to use a more than one particle. Let's use 10 particles. What the hell? This is not supposed to happen. It was running. Ah, see. Now it is
Okay.
running. Hold on. Let's try to do it for smaller number of particles. So this visualization part I am not explaining much. It's just plotting. Like you can use matplotlib
Yeah,
to
we are plotting the graph in for
matplotlib.
simulation purpose. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So you see each of the particle what they are doing.
Yeah. Random walk of Brahman
Yes,
motion.
you can see they are doing a Brownian motion, but they started at this middle, and everyone is going, like if you start with a multiple more than, let's say, instead of 50, let's use 100 particles. let's see what happens. See, there is highly concentrated.
Uh,
Now if you go wait enough, you can see it's getting homogenized everywhere. See, there was like initially it had a lot of particles in the middle, right? And eventually it has spread out. Although they are doing a random walk.
but still they are getting it spread over the surface.
Yes, they are getting spread over the surface. So all of them are doing random walk. I haven't given any directional bias to them. See this velocity of them, this velocity is random numbers.
Yeah.
After calling it from random numbers. So although doing a random walk, you can see there is homogenizing going on. Like from starting from a concentrated portion, it goes. Remember, these particles are not interacting with each other. Like in theory, they are getting collided from them from the environment, but uh, in this model, there is no interaction between these particles. So one particle does not know the other is there. Okay. Now let's say you want to have some kind of interaction. So you can modify these equations. These equations you can modify and have like so you can see this iPad screen, right?
Yeah.
So these equations. So you are asking about the generalization. So right now it is has dx dt equals some rx, right? Now let's say they interact like they have a spring connected to them. So there will be some kx minus x0 whole square.
Yeah, that's the model we are currently using to modelize the cells as we treat them as spring and ball model.
Yes, spring and
Okay.
ball model exactly. This is the famous model actually. So you will have noise term, right?
Yeah.
You will have noise term. Noise means
Sorry.
this random term. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Okay. So how you just use the solver, right? Psi. Use SciPy, you said, or
Yeah,
Scilab.
I am using SciPy, but I am using certain different approach. I was using an approach where we are actually looking for the equations of. I tried to just do a simple simulation uh, over the simple proteins, like
Hmm.
because I wanted to get more efficiency rather than simplifying. So I
Efficiency
tried.
in terms of code like code time complexity, or what kind of
No, in
efficiency?
terms of interreactions, I was taking certain considerations like
Hmm.
if we include the interactions of all the particles in a system,
Hmm.
so how we can get or what actually we would get to know
Hmm. Hmm.
how a
Hmm.
cell would be functioning.
So you have multiple interacting spring ball system. It's like that.
Yeah, but in that, I was adding certain kind of biases to all of them, like based on their polarity and so and so.
Okay. Okay. Polarity of the proteins.
Yeah, no,
Cells.
I was dealing not as a protein. I was just simulating for only one protein,
Hmm.
a smaller protein. Maybe I just have tried for the molecules, a group of bunch of molecules, and then I was simulating them atomic wise. Like we have an atom,
Hmm.
and then we make the molecule with polarity,
Hmm.
and then I was trying to simulate what would be its motion and how they are behaving. Because at the end, when we see the how the cells are actually creating each other, they are just doing random motion. But in that random motion,
Hmm.
they are making certain complexes. they are making complexes, and that complexes are result from the overall energy and their overall interactions with their surrounding or their nature.
Okay,
So
I
we
see, I
can
see. Mm-hmm.
so we see that I was more interested in the nucleus part. So I have tried to study that, but I was having not a proper base of the biology. So at that time I need to have certain more digging and all those things to
Okay,
understand what is the nucleus and how the nucleus behaves of a cell.
I
I
get
was
you.
studying that. Then
Okay.
I understood that in the cell, everything having a different density. So every you can say the intercellular constituent like I forgot the name, mitochondria and the nucleus would have different densities and different structures.
Yes.
So based on that different densities, they would interact with each other differently. So when the proteins are getting diffused into the nucleus, because nucleus having certain kind of holes are permissible where the materials get inside the nucleus, and there we get the DNA part which has been tightly consumed in that only nucleus, and the molecules are getting inside and out from a membrane in the nucleus.
Yes, yes, yes.
And another part which was I was interested in was to actually get a proper idea of proper general structural frequency kind of thing.
Okay.
So we can tell a single cell apart from other cell by
Okay.
using the sound principles
Oh, okay.
in the way of
Sound.
vibration and interactions of a cell. So I was more interested in finding the structural frequencies of the cell. So we can solve many problems like for cancer cell if we say they have a totally different set of frequencies than of that of the normal cells. So this would be a great help, and also
I
if we
see.
use the principle of resonance, so we can have certain changes in their structure. So from that we can destroy the cells that are harmful like cancer cell using the only sound waves
I
if
see.
we give the proper resonance or proper frequencies.
Sound. You can detect if there is one or not, right?
Yeah, detect, and also we can modify the structure using if we are using a proper sound wave, we can actually modify the structure
Oh.
using just only sound waves. So that I am interested in all those things.
So you
But
are doing this in where? Like,
currently I am not getting such time because of job and so.
you
But I
are a
have,
job person, right? That's what.
yeah,
Okay. So
I
you.
am thinking of doing a master's and dedicated PhD. But currently, as time permits, I don't have the time. So I'm thinking after 1 or 2 years to get into
You
the
have to
master's.
appear
And
in gate again.
yeah, I need to appear in the gate to get into the best university.
Where are you from, by the way, if I may ask?
Yeah, I have thought of IISc Bangalore to do the masters in biophysics because that's the university I have find that gives MSc biophysics. But I'm not very much, I can say, that aware of what all the courses that correlates with what I want to do and which all government universities or the IITs and IIScr gives.
Okay, so yeah, you can try IITs also. They have good courses. IIT and ISC are good
Yeah.
enough. Like if you want to, yeah, I get what you are trying to say. That's really good. You still have interest in research.
Yeah.
No, people go to corporate life and they just don't come back. That's good. I see. Actually, I also work some similar areas, work in some similar areas, but I mostly do simulations. I don't do experiments or anything. Like I just do simulation. Recently, we are doing some same kind of random walk like structure, but when with cell division. I don't have it. I can find it yet. Anyway, I can find it. So that's mainly it. One last thing I wanted to show you that from here you can actually calculate. mean square displacement. So the remember I just showed you here uh, what is the mean square displacement x square average. This you can see the screen, right?
Yeah, I am able to.
Both the screens or one of the screens.
Yeah, also the MATLAB and also the pad that is
MATLAB
set.
screen, yeah. So you see this is r squared is 4 proportion r squared equals 4 dt. Okay.
Yeah.
So this r square we have calculated. So see displacement is x at t minus x at 1 square plus y at t minus y at 1 square, right? This is the
Okay.
displacement, that is mhd is the mean of this. So this is how you quantify stuff. So this is how you simulated stuff. Now you want to quantify and verify your theory. So that's what we are trying to do, to verify the theory. So you calculate the displacement.
Yes.
Yes.
I had a question like that. If we want to treat both the properties, like if we want the thing to behave as in bulk, and also we want our simulation to treat them as a discrete. Like
Yes.
if we want certain results, then we can take in certain parts of the cell. And we also want them to behave as bulk. So do we have any mathematical model also which can deal with both the properties? Like
uh,
we can also treat them as a bulk and also as a discrete part.
as in bulk means what? Can you
As
elaborate?
in bulk, like we are like just we are here taking the assumptions of the whole system,
Hmm.
and then we are dealing with them. Like
Hmm.
if I want to say that if I want to find the structural frequency, then I cannot find structural frequency based on only one particle.
Yes,
I
yes.
need to have certain kind of n particles, and then for that n particles, I can find the structural frequency.
Yes,
But
yes.
I want to dig in, like if I say I have a cell and I want to find the structural frequency of the nucleus,
Hmm.
considering I have the structural frequency of the cell, then how can I go into such depths or make certain different appropriate length if I have a structural frequency with me in the hand?
No, see, once if you have a more fundamental level simulation, you can
Yeah.
do like bottom up is easier, I'll say. Bottom up
Okay,
means,
then
yeah,
yeah, top down is hard.
top down is, yes, exactly. So let's say this example. So you have explicit, sorry.
Yeah,
So this is, here you have each
bottom
particle's
up
position.
approach.
Yeah, so you know the particles. Now you, if you want to know a property in bulk, that is what this MHD is about, mean square displacement. This averaging, taking a displacement of each particle, then taking a mean. Mean means you don't have the individual particle information anymore. You have taken an
Yeah.
average of these particles, and how on an average particles behavior is. That this is the bottom up approach. So now if you have the luxury of simulation, you can go like this. Not always people have the luxury of that, right? Like experimentalists don't have that, but in simulation, if you can model a system which is a more fundamental level, then you can have information to a little uh, averaged out information about the system, like
Yeah, but
bulk
if we
system.
want to validate our results in the real life, then like
You have
doing
to, yes, you have to,
yeah,
yeah, definitely.
definitely. For that, we need some instrumentation, something like that. There we can actually go on sampling and actual cells and those things, and
Mm-hmm.
try to verify using experimentally. So,
Then you have to
simulation we
come up.
can not give in the research paper also things.
Mm-hmm.
We need
Yeah,
to
that is,
actually verify that.
yeah, that is, yeah, definitely, I agree. Yeah, it
Yeah.
depends what is easier and what is your interest.
Yeah, I actually have a more interest in practical side, like trying different methods. Currently, I have seen that certain scientists deal with this kind of problem using the rheology of the cells, or we can say the mechanobiology, having this type of concepts. Like they deal with is using the rheological principles of the cell. considering the protein and their structure, and then we derive their frequencies in certain medium using the temperature and all those characteristics in present. But we can never have an idea or have such a powerful computer which can deal with all those things at a
That's
one
true.
time.
That's true. That many complications. You need to, like, I don't know if there is that kind of computer available or not.
Yeah, that is why these are all very complex. So I was trying to use a proper computer approach, like making certain functions and then dealing with that functions.
Hmm.
That kind of approach we use in the computer science, and so we make an algorithm and we make a function and then we try to fix the problem by making little functions and then dealing with the whole function as in bulk.
I see. Yeah, that is. I understand what you are trying to say.
Yeah. So just now for preparing and finding the universities and all those things.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Should, if you are interested, you should go for it. Definitely.
Okay.
Uh, so that was it. From my side, last this plot I wanted to show. So this shows, this blue line shows that MHD has is calculated from the simulation, and this red line shows the theoretical for DT. So you see there is good match, you can say.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's what I wanted to say today. And all the best for your.
Yeah, so I also want to say that this section, this lectures are all only on Saturday and 3 to 5.
It's Saturday 3 to 5. Usually, if there is a change, I usually email them. So
Okay.
I hope there won't be any change
So
anyway.
actually, I got just to know this thing only 3 or 4 days back when I was checking email. I don't have known that
I
this kind
see.
of sessions happen.
I see. I see. I see. Oh,
Okay.
it's fine. Like, you can go through the lectures. That will be enough, I guess. These are
Okay.
for like assignment solving, those stuff. Like, if you are appearing for exam in this NPTEL course, they conduct exam also. So if
Yeah,
you are
I am
appearing,
appealing for the
uh,
exam.
yeah, yeah, then it's fine. So please drop me an email in this one, so I can connect to you. Like, if there is any change of time or something, it will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have taken the screenshot. Again, I will just take another screenshot.
yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, there are other students also. They didn't join today. I don't know why. There are some MSc, MTech. There is one more guy from industry also is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the spectrum.
So, in my college also, we had a group of students which are interested in all those kind of stuff.
Okay, okay. Which college you are from? Like, which part of India you are from?
Yeah, I am from Ahmedabad and Gujarat.
Gujarat. I see.
Okay.
I see.
And Adani University was my college.
I see. Okay. Nice. Okay then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
So
Bye.
good time with interacting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sunil.
Bye.